Welcome to my BMW M2, my second BMW M2 actually, but nonetheless my BMW M2. Why did I even buy a BMW M2 when I had a wonderful M240i that everybody told me not to trade in, not to sell? The B58 is the king. Why would you go back to an N55? Well, let's discuss in this video. Welcome guys to Driveway Journey, where I'm all about going from your first keys to your dream driveways. Why did I buy a BMW M2? So a little bit of backstory. I had a 2017 BMW M240i. It was a gorgeous black sapphire car and it had red interior and everything was blacked out. The tints, the wheels, it was just like black and red. That's it. Those are the only colors on that car. And it was phenomenal. It was probably one of the best cars I've ever owned. Not that I've owned all that many cars, but still the best one I've ever owned. I decided to trade that car in for a BMW M2. So the question is, why did I trade my B58 powered M240i for an M2? There are a lot of positive things to say about the M240i. There's really nothing negative that I have to say about that car. It was just a good car. The B58 engine was really nice. Now, I keep my cars relatively stock. I don't tune them. I don't generally mod them all that much. Maybe an aesthetic piece here and there, but generally I don't mess with them. The B58 is great for modding, and that's one of the big perks about it. But personally, I didn't really care for that, obviously, right? If I'm not into modding, it doesn't really affect me. But another thing that I really liked, personally, this is my favorite feature about the B58, is the heat encapsulation that it has. My M2, if it's in the winter, I go to a coffee shop, I turn the car off, I go inside, I order, I come back out, I start the car up again. The car is ice cold, and you have to re-warm it up, and you have to do it almost every single time, and it's really annoying. The perk that the M240i had was that car held heat so well, where I could drive it, get it up to temperature in the winter, I could park the car, I can go inside, I could watch a movie, and then I could come back to the car and the car is still warm. You do not have to reheat the car. Now on some very cold days you do, but generally you really don't need to. It's pretty much up to temperature. That's one of the fantastic things about that car. And reliability wise, not a single thing went wrong on that car. Phenomenal. So why would I trade that in for an M2? Really, the one drawback of the M240i is that it is not an M2. That's really it. It's one of those situations where if you buy an M240i, you're always going to be looking at the M2. You're always going to say, it's the M240i. It's not the M2. It's not an M car. You know, it's like this in-between phase where you kind of want the M2. And that's really what it was. I wanted to, I had the car for 2.5 years. I wanted to experience something different, but really I wanted the next thing. Like every time I got in the car, I saw an M2 on the road, I'm like, yeah, this thing is nice, but that's an M2. That's like one step above. I'm like, man, I gotta experience that at some point. So then I ended up just window shopping online, and it happened to be by sheer coincidence that the dealership that's like 15-20 minutes from my house had the M2 that I wanted at their dealership, at the price I wanted, at a decent mileage, like everything I wanted, they had. So I'm like, all right, let's go test drive it. And I test drove it, and it just instantly felt more special, and I'm just like, let's do it. So that's really what got me from the M240i to the M2, and why I bought the M2 is really I had an M240i and I was always looking at the M2. So my advice is, unless you really want like the M240i, wait a little bit, save up a little bit more money, and buy the car you actually want. Now I say that at the time when I first bought the M240i, I didn't want the M2 specifically because I wanted black with red interior. I was hell-bent on black with red interior, and unfortunately the M2 doesn't come with black and red interior. Red interior is not an option. So that was, as silly as it sounds, that was the deal breaker at the time for why I didn't buy an M2 in the first place. I didn't want one. Money was a secondary thing. I didn't make quite enough to justify it. Could I have done it? Yes. Would it have made sense to me? No. It would have been hard to justify doing it. So definitely I would recommend, if you're gonna buy a car, buy the car you want. Or buy the car that is a little less than the one you want if you know that you're going to trade that car in and upgrade to the car you actually want. Like, for example, the next car I'm looking at buying after this M2 is an Aston Martin V8 Vantage. And that's a car that I really want to experience for a while and then sell and move on to the next car. It's not a car I'm planning to keep long term. It's only maybe like a 1 year to 2 year kind of a purchase. So I'm buying that car with the intent of buying something else later on anyway. So I don't really care about buying like a full, DB9 or anything like that. I'm fine with the V8 Vantage because it ticks the boxes that I want it to tick. I want to experience that body style, I want to experience the Aston Martin, and it checks everything off that I want it to check off. But in general, buy the car you want. Now, the one thing that really did suck buying the M2 compared to the M240i is I bought the M240i during COVID. Now, if you know anything about COVID, cars were dirt cheap to buy during COVID. Because yes, some car prices may have been a little higher, but the interest rates on cars were ridiculously low. I had like a 2.2 interest on the M240i. Like a 2.2, that is like free money. You could put your money in the stock market, in the S&P 500, make 10, 12, 14%. Subtract the 2% and like you still have like a net 10 to 12% net profit with your money. So it really was basically free when you look at it from that perspective. So that's really the one thing that sucked and that I regret about trading the M240i in for the M2. Plus, I also kind of regret trading in that car instead of selling it and then buying the M2 because I got a little less money for the M240i than I would have liked because I traded it in, right? I didn't sell it. It's always better in your favor to sell the car than to trade it in, 9 out of 10 times. That's what happens when you go to test drive a car that you want to buy and then impulse buy the car. That's what happens. So that is the story of why I decided to buy a BMW M2. Long story short, I had an M240i and I kept looking at the M2. That's the story, guys. That is what it is. So that's my journey to my BMW M2, to my first BMW M2. Now, this is my second BMW M2, and why I bought a second one, that's for another video. But for now, if you like the content, leave it a like, subscribe, and if you're on your journey from your first keys to your dream driveway, make sure you guys also check out my website, drivewayjourney.com, where I have some merch that can kind of help you represent your journey going from your first keys to your dream driveways. It encourages us with the idea and the brand of Driveway Journey to really talk about our journeys that we're all taking as car enthusiasts. So if that's something you're into, make sure you guys check that out. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.